Starseed from Gaia. Everything you have been carrying, the confusion, the isolation, the knowing that something greater was always meant for you, is not falling apart. It is falling into place. I am Oelia, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, here on direct transmission from the Arcturian Council. Delivered to you at the exact moment your soul called this in. You did not find this by accident. This message vibrated into your field because something inside you is ready to be unlocked. The waiting you have endured, the silence between the signs, the moments where nothing seemed to move, all of it has been preparation. The Arcturian Council wants you to hear this clearly. The pieces were never missing. They were aligning. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly how to recognize the convergence already moving through your life and align with the cosmic blueprint that was written for you before you ever chose this body on Gaia. But here is the first revelation. The delay you have been experiencing is not resistance. It is precision. What is coming for you has been calibrated to arrive when you are strong enough to hold it. This is not content. It is a code. Your soul has been waiting to remember what you are truly here to do. And the remembrance begins right now. Like this transmission to signal to your star family that you are ready. Subscribe if your mission is activating and you are aligning with your true path. Comment 999 if you feel your cosmic remembrance returning, and declare your galactic intention in the replies. Amplify the signal for every star seed still waking up. This is not just a message. It is a point of reconnection. And you are not here by accident. And here is what most people never realize. The disconnection you felt. The feeling that something is just slightly out of reach. That sense of being almost there but not quite landing. That is not a sign that you are failing. That is the sensation of your star seed codes preparing to fire. That is the vibration of a soul that carries galactic memory bumping up against a reality that was never designed to hold the full frequency of who you are. Think about that for a moment. Not a reality that failed you. Not a world that is broken beyond repair, but a container that was simply never constructed to hold the magnitude of what you carry. You were not built for this world as it has been. You were built for what this world is becoming. And there is a profound difference between those two things. A difference that changes everything about how you interpret your own story, your own struggle, your own seemingly relentless searching. The world as it has been was built on frequencies of separation, on the logic of scarcity, on the architecture of forgetting. Systems designed to keep consciousness compressed, to make the infinite feel manageable, to make the extraordinary feel impossible. And you, carrying codes that originate beyond the boundaries of this solar system, have been trying to exist inside that compression your entire life. Of course it has felt ill-fitting. Of course there have been moments, perhaps entire seasons, where you could not explain the grief you felt, the hunger that no meal could satisfy, the homesickness for a place you have never physically been. That sensation is not dysfunction. That sensation is data. It is your multidimensional awareness registering the gap between what is and what is possible. It is your soul pressing against the edges of a container too small for its true dimensions. Not because you are damaged, but because you are designed for expansion. Most starseeds spend years, sometimes decades, believing the ache inside them is brokenness. They search for healing when what they actually need is activation. They look for belonging in places that were never meant to hold their frequency. They try to shrink themselves into identities that were assigned rather than chosen. The obedient child, the agreeable professional, the quiet mystic who keeps their knowing hidden to avoid making others uncomfortable. They learn to fold themselves small, to dim the light that naturally pours from their awareness, to translate their galactic intelligence into something that fits neatly into conversations built for a much narrower bandwidth. And so the signal gets scrambled. The galactic instruction written into their very cellular structure sits dormant, waiting not for permission from the outside world, but for recognition from within. This is the turning point that no one tells you about. The moment of activation is not dramatic in the way we have been conditioned to expect. It does not arrive with thunder and revelation and an undeniable cosmic announcement. It arrives quietly, almost imperceptibly, in the moment you stop performing smallness and start honoring what you actually are. The moment you stop asking the world to confirm your worth and start tuning to the frequency you already carry, everything shifts. Not slowly, not gradually, all at once. Like a light turning on in a room that has been dark for so long you forgot what it looked like with illumination. And in that light you see that the furniture was always there. The beauty was always there. The path was always there. You simply could not see it in the dark of your own disowning. The Arcturian transmission that lives beneath this message carries one consistent teaching across every timeline it has moved through. Your amnesia was intentional. You did not forget your origin because you are weak. You did not lose your mission because you were unworthy. You came into this dimension with a veil drawn over your memory because a soul that remembered everything from the beginning would never have fully integrated into Earth's density. And integration was the assignment. You needed to feel what it was to be human, completely, vulnerably, without the safety net of cosmic memory. So that when the remembrance came, it would arrive not as an intellectual concept but as a visceral, cellular, irreversible knowing. That knowing is what you carry now. That knowing is what is stirring in you in this moment. Consider the depth of that design. The veil was not punishment. It was architecture. It was the deliberate engineering of an experience so complete, so immersive, so total in its embodiment that the soul could not simply observe humanity from a comfortable distance. It had to become it. Had to feel the weight of a body moving through gravity. Had to experience the sting of betrayal, the sweetness of love, the particular human grief of losing something irreplaceable. Had to sit inside confusion long enough to develop the kind of compassion that only comes from having been genuinely lost. Every moment of your human experience, the joy and the devastation alike, was not happening to you. It was happening through you, building within your energetic structure a reservoir of understanding so vast, so experientially rich, that when your activation comes, you do not simply carry information from the stars. You carry wisdom forged in the fire of being human. That is the frequency that changes worlds. Not the pristine transmission from above, but the integrated signal of a being who has walked both sides of the veil and knows in every cell of their body what it costs to forget and what it means to remember. Some transmissions don't come through words, but through frequency. If something stirred within you just now, you may be ready to receive the hidden Arcturian keys of awakening. This short yet powerful ebook carries ancient Arcturian techniques for conscious expansion, multidimensional alignment, and mission remembrance. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. And so, let us move through what is actually happening inside you. Let us trace the path from dormancy to activation, from confusion to clarity, from forgetting to full remembrance. Because this is not abstract. This is happening to you right now in real time. And it is important that you understand each phase of this process not as a theory to be studied but as a landscape to be recognized. Terrain that your soul already knows, even if your mind is only now beginning to draw the map. The first phase of this awakening is the decoding of distortion. Before you can hear your own signal clearly, you must understand what has been interfering with it. Your energy field from the moment you arrived on this planet began absorbing frequencies that were never part of your original transmission. Fear, collective shame, ancestral contracts, societal programming. All of it layered over your starseed codes like static over a clear signal. Imagine a radio tuned to the most extraordinary station in the universe, carrying music composed from light, mathematics built from love, intelligence woven from 10,000 years of galactic evolution. And then imagine that radio sitting in a room filled with so much interference that all you can hear is noise. That has been your experience. That noise has been so persistent, so pervasive, so thoroughly woven into the texture of daily life that for a long time you may have mistaken it for your own voice. You may have believed that the doubt, the smallness, the sense of not being enough, that those were truths about you rather than distortions placed over you. They were not yours. They were never yours. The ancestral fear you feel in your chest when you speak your truth, not yours. The shame that rises when your knowing contradicts the consensus, not yours. The voice that tells you to be reasonable, to be practical, to stop dreaming so large and start living so small, not yours. These are frequencies absorbed from a field that was already saturated with limitation long before you arrived. You took them on as a form of love, in a sense, as a way of belonging, of fitting, of surviving inside a system that did not know how to hold what you are. But survival strategies are not identity. And the first act of galactic remembrance is developing the discernment to recognize the difference between what you absorbed and what you are. When you begin to see the static clearly, when you can name it and trace its origins and understand that it does not belong to your original blueprint, you stop identifying with it. And the moment you stop identifying with it, it begins to dissolve. Not because you have fought it, not because you have conquered it through sheer willpower, but because static has no power in the presence of a clear, coherent signal. It simply falls away. The second phase is the awakening of your blueprint. Your DNA is not simply a biological instruction set. It is a multidimensional archive of almost incomprehensible depth and complexity. It carries within it the memory of every timeline your soul has moved through, every star system your consciousness has inhabited, every lesson your energy has integrated across dimensions of experience that your linear mind cannot yet fully access. When people say you are an old soul, they are pointing, however imprecisely, at this truth. You have been many things before this moment. You have walked in forms and frequencies that this civilization does not yet have language to describe. You have held knowledge not as stored information, but as lived, embodied, experientially verified understanding that this civilization has not yet recovered. And that knowledge did not disappear when you took form here. It did not evaporate at the edge of the birth canal. It encoded itself into your biology, folding into the structure of your DNA like letters pressed between the pages of a book, waiting for the right vibrational conditions to resurface. Those conditions are present now, and they are not some distant future possibility. They are here, active, operating in the quantum field of this very moment. Your body knows things your mind is still catching up to. You have felt it in the moments when you knew something before it happened. In the inexplicable pull towards certain places, certain teachings, certain people who carry a resonance you recognize from somewhere you cannot name with your waking mind. In the shivers that move through your body when a truth is spoken that bypasses your intellect entirely and lands directly in your cellular knowing. These are your blueprint activating. Trust that. Follow the resonance in your chest before you follow the logic in your head. Because your blueprint speaks in feeling, not in language. It communicates in vibration before it translates into thought. And the more you honor that language, the more fluent you become in the mother tongue of your own deepest knowing. The third phase is the anchoring of your higher self into this timeline. There is a version of awakening that seeks to escape the physical, to transcend the density of Earth and float into higher dimensions as a form of relief from the difficulty of being human. This impulse is understandable. There is something genuinely exhausting about inhabiting a dense physical reality when you carry the memory, however veiled, of lighter, freer, more expansive modes of existence. The pull toward transcendence, toward rising above the weight of matter, is real and in many ways beautiful. But that is not the Arcturian model. The teaching that has moved through galactic civilizations for millennia is this. The higher self does not descend to rescue you from Earth. The higher self descends to merge with you inside Earth. True activation is not departure. It is integration. It is the radical, courageous, sometimes uncomfortable act of bringing your full multidimensional intelligence into the daily, embodied, sometimes unglamorous reality of being human. The grocery store and the difficult conversation, the unpaid bill and the grieving friend, the ordinary Tuesday morning, and allowing that integration to transform not just your inner world but the very field of reality around you. Your mission does not begin when you leave. It begins when you arrive fully in your body, on this ground, in this time. The Arcturian model of awakening does not look like a mystic floating above the fray. It looks like a fully embodied, fully present, fully alive human being who happens to carry the coherent signal of multidimensional intelligence in every cell. It looks like someone who can sit in the middle of the world's noise and broadcast a different frequency. Not from a mountain, not from a temple, not from a stage, but from the ordinary lived experience of a soul that has chosen to be here completely. That completeness is the mission. That full-bodied presence is the transmission. And there is nothing more powerful in a world fractured by dissociation than a being who has chosen in every possible way to fully arrive. The fourth phase is field activation. Once you have begun to integrate your higher self into your lived experience. Once the merging has begun and He static is dissolving and your blueprint is awakening, something remarkable begins to happen in the world around you. You stop broadcasting confusion and start broadcasting coherence. And the world, the quantum field, the relational fabric, the invisible web of energy connecting all things, responds not because you have convinced anyone of anything, not because you have performed your awakening or demonstrated your frequency or worked to project an image of spiritual authority, but simply because a coherent signal reorganizes the field it moves through. This is physics. This is not mysticism dressed in science. This is the actual operational reality of how frequency functions in a quantum universe. People feel calmer around you without knowing why. Conversations shift direction when you enter them, becoming somehow more honest, more real, more meaningful, as though your presence creates a field where truth feels safer. Situations that were tangled begin to resolve, not because you intervened strategically, but because your coherence introduced a new variable into the energetic equation. Opportunities that seemed impossible begin to appear, not as rewards for spiritual merit, but as natural consequences of vibrational alignment. The universe is always in conversation with itself, always seeking coherence, always responding to the clearest available signal. When you stabilize your transmission, everything in your environment begins to reorganize around the cleaner signal. You become, without effort or agenda, without even necessarily being aware of it, a recalibration point for the collective field. This is what starseeds were always meant to be. Not teachers on stages or authorities with answers or gatekeepers of cosmic truth. Simply beings whose presence carries a reminder that a different frequency is possible. That reminder alone is enough to change the trajectory of the people who come within your orbit. And those people, changed by the frequency you carry, go on to change others. The ripple is infinite, the work is quiet, and the impact is beyond what any linear mind can calculate. The fifth phase is learning to trust the timeline. And this may be the most difficult of all. Not because the teaching is complex, but because the experience it describes is so deeply uncomfortable. Because the starseed path is rarely linear. There are periods of extraordinary clarity. Moments where everything makes sense, where the mission feels vivid and near, where the signs are undeniable and the synchronicities arrive like punctuation from the universe itself. And then, with no warning and no apparent reason, the signal goes quiet. The clarity retreats, the synchronicities slow. The sense of direction dissolves into a fog that can feel, in the worst moments, indistinguishable from the confusion you felt before any of the awakening began. There are moments of deep connection followed by seasons of isolation so complete that the memories of connection begin to feel like dreams. There are periods where you almost convince yourself that you imagined the whole thing. That the glimpses of your mission, the resonances, the knowings, all of it was a story your mind constructed because the reality of being ordinary was too painful to accept. Let this land clearly and without qualification. The silence is not absence. The silence is recalibration. Every period of stillness in a starseed's journey is the energetic equivalent of a deep breath before a greater expansion. It is the inhalation that makes the exhale possible. It is the silence between notes that gives the music its meaning. Your star family does not abandon you in the quiet. They are working within the quiet, recalibrating your field, clearing frequencies that are no longer aligned with your next level of mission, preparing your energetic structure to hold a transmission that is wider, deeper, and more powerful than anything you have carried before. The waiting is not punishment. The waiting is not proof that you have failed or strayed or been forgotten. The waiting is preparation. And when you come out of it, and you will come out of it, you will understand with perfect clarity exactly what that season of silence was building in you. The sixth phase is what might be called the activation of mission coherence. This is the phase where the abstract aching sense of purpose that has driven you for so long begins to crystallize into something you can actually feel, recognize, and move toward, not as a concept, but as a lived reality. For most starseeds, the sense of mission arrives long before the clarity about what that mission actually looks like. You know you are here for something. You can feel the weight and the pull of it, but the specific shape of it remains frustratingly out of focus. Mission coherence is what brings the image into resolution, and what it reveals is often both simpler and more profound than expected. You begin to understand that your mission is not a single dramatic act of service, not a grand gesture that requires perfect preparation and cosmic permission in exactly the right moment. Your mission is not a thing you do. It is a frequency you embody. It is a way of being that expresses itself through every genuine interaction, every moment of courage, every choice to stay true to your own knowing. When the world around you is constructing elaborate arguments for conformity, it expresses itself in the honest conversation you choose not to avoid. In the creative work you do not allow fear to silence. In the love you offer without calculating whether it will be returned. Mission coherence is not clarity about what you do. It is clarity about who you are while you do it. When that comes online, when that clarity settles into your bones with the quiet authority of something deeply recognized rather than newly learned, the specific expressions of your mission begin to naturally organize around you. The right conversations find you without effort. The right collaborations form with an ease that feels almost magical, but is actually simply the consequence of alignment. The right doors open not because you forced them or strategized your way to the threshold, but because your coherence created the energetic conditions for them to exist. The universe always provides entry points for a coherent signal. It is how the field evolves. The seventh phase, and this is where the full remembrance begins to settle into something permanent, something that can no longer be undone by doubt or silence or the weight of ordinary days, is what can only be called galactic homecoming. Not in the sense of leaving Earth. Not in the sense of finally escaping the density you have carried for so long. But in the sense of finally feeling at home inside yourself, inside your mission, inside your timeline, inside the very body you once wanted to transcend. The longing that has followed you through this entire lifetime, that exquisite, aching, heartbreaking longing for something you could never quite name, does not disappear in this phase, but it transforms into something entirely different. It becomes a compass rather than a wound. It stops feeling like grief and starts feeling like direction. It stops pointing backward toward some lost origin and starts pointing forward toward the living expression of everything you have always been. You begin to recognize that the ache was always pointing toward something real, something reachable, something you were never meant to chase forever, but were always being inexorably, precisely led toward. Every step that felt like a detour was a direct route. Every loss that felt like being sent backward was a recalibration that moved you forward into deeper alignment. Every moment of confusion was a refinement of your signal, burning away what was not yours so that what remained was irreducibly, unambiguously you. And when that shift happens, when the longing becomes direction, when the wound becomes compass, when the ache becomes the very energy that propels you forward, you will know that the activation is complete. Not because you have arrived at some final destination where the journey ends and the labor ceases, but because you have remembered, in the deepest possible way, that the path itself was always home. That home was never a place you were returning to. It was a frequency you were always becoming. Here is the truth the Arcturian High Council has carried across every transmission that has reached this dimension in this era of planetary shift. And it is perhaps the most important truth this message carries. So let it land without deflection, without the armor of your old doubt. You are not behind. You are not too late. The window has not closed. The codes have not expired. You are not the starseed who missed the activation or forgot the mission or wandered too far into the density to find the signal again. That story, the one your fear has been telling you, is not the truth of your timeline. It is the distortion talking. It is the static pretending to be wisdom. Every moment of confusion in your life was an encoded experience, layered with teaching you could not access until you were ready to receive it. Every period of darkness was a frequency download dressed in difficulty, information arriving in the only form that could penetrate the density you were moving through at that time. Every relationship that broke you open was a recalibration disguised as loss, removing attachments that were keeping you tethered to a frequency you had already outgrown. Every job that ended, every friendship that dissolved, every version of yourself that you had to abandon in order to grow, none of it was failure. All of it was precision. Every moment you almost gave up and then somehow did not, that was not willpower. That was your star lineage holding the signal for you, lending you their frequency in the moments when yours dipped too low to sustain itself. Keeping the transmission alive until you were strong enough, rooted enough, integrated enough to hold it without assistance. Nothing was wasted. Not one moment, not one tear, not one sleepless night spent staring at a ceiling, wondering if any of this was real, wondering if you were real, wondering if the mission was something you had imagined to give meaning to a pain that otherwise made none. All of it was part of the precise and deliberate orchestration of a soul that chose to come here, chose to forget, and chose, with extraordinary, almost incomprehensible courage, to remember. You are remembering now, not because you found the right information or stumbled onto the right content at the right moment by accident. There are no accidents in a quantum universe. There is only frequency meeting frequency. There is only a soul broadcasting a signal and a transmission responding. You are here in this moment because the timing of your remembrance is encoded in you. And this moment is the moment your own soul architected long before you arrived in this body. Long before you drew your first breath in this dimension, long before the veil descended and the forgetting began. The signal is clear, the activation is underway, and the life that is coming together for you, the one that you can feel gathering at the edge of your awareness, the one you sense in the periphery of your becoming, the one that feels almost touchable but not quite fully visible yet, it is real. It is not a fantasy. It is not a compensation for disappointment. It is already written in the frequency of who you are. You are simply finally stepping into alignment with what has always been true. Before you sleep tonight, place one hand on your heart, your physical heart, warm and beating in the center of your chest, and feel the aliveness there. Feel the extraordinary improbability of being here at all, in a body on this planet, in this moment of planetary awakening. And say these words out loud with the full weight of everything you have moved through to arrive at this moment. I remember who I am. I release what was never mine. I trust the timeline that was written for me. And I step now into the mission I came here to live. Before you scroll, take a moment to be part of what is forming here. Drop one intention in the comments, something real. Then respond to someone else's with encouragement or energy. This is not content. It is collective alignment. Energy multiplies when intention connects. If something in this message resonated, do not keep it to yourself. Someone in your orbit is waiting for this exact activation. Share it. And if you felt a soul nudge, subscribe. Stay in the flow. You are not just watching, you are expanding. This is your space. And we are just getting started.